The Old Presque Isle Lighthouse is notorious for paranormal activity, attracting tourists and ghost seekers from all over the country. Built back in 1840, the structure hosted many different lighthouse keepers throughout its time as an active beacon on the shores of Lake Huron. Sally Dix has been working at the museum for the past 16 summers. She's become quite familiar with the spirits that inhabit this historic landmark.
The family that bought this in the 1930s, their names was the Stebbins family. They were from Lansing. They came up and bought it, but it had sat empty here for many years. But eventually they hired a retired couple to live here and run it as a museum. And that was George and Lorraine Paris. And they were here for 20 years, 1972 to 1992. George Paris died of a heart attack in 92. You have to remember George loved this place dearly, heart and soul. Well, after he died, within a month, his wife Lorraine was coming home from an errand one night. She looked up the lighthouse because it was getting dark out, and lo and behold, the lighthouse light came on. And she's like freaking, what's going on? How can I see this light and there's no power? So she thought, well, maybe I just thought I saw it. So she waited a few weeks. Sure enough, she kept seeing that light come on in those weeks. So she thought, well, I've seen it enough, now I can call the Coast Guard. So she called them, told them she was seeing the light come on. So when they heard her say that, they said, well, of course, Lorraine, you cannot be seeing a light because there's no power out there. She said, I know, but that's what the problem is. I'm seeing a light, and I know there's no power there. So they came out and they checked it thoroughly, went up there and checked everything, came back in and said, we hate to tell you this, Lorraine, there's no way a light can come on out there. What do you think is happening? She says, well, you know what? Has to be my husband, George. He's come back to tell me he's still watching over me. And to this day, people see the light. I've seen it come on 4 years ago. Took a walk out on the pier out here, about 10:30 at night. And lo and behold, the light came on for me too. So many people through the years, when they come in here to see the lighthouse, they tell me, guess what? We've seen the ghost light.
To this day, visitors and locals still see lights flickering in the distance. George Paris is thought to still walk the grounds and tend to the area he loved so much. Items can often be found out of place, a very eerie feeling.
I went upstairs to turn lights on the following morning to go to work, and there was an actual print, a heavy print on the bedspread where somebody had either sat or laid down. The pillow was like indented too, so probably it was somebody had laid there that night. Of course, nobody's in here at night, so there was some kind of spirit here.
Matthew Bedard, who manages the grounds, has been called numerous times to the museum for trip sensors going off, only to find nothing. Often children possess a lens for the supernatural that adults sometimes can't perceive.
A little girl came in with her mother. She was about 14 years old. They had been in the tower, and the little mom asked her if she wanted to look around in here and that, and the little girl said, well, if you don't mind, could I go back up in the lighthouse? Her mom said, well, sure, go ahead. So she went, and then she was gone a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. She came running back down, run in the building here, and she said, Mom, I saw the lighthouse keeper out there in the tower. And she said, well, there is no lighthouse keeper here. You know, there hasn't been for years. She said, well, I saw him, and she pointed up to a picture on the fireplace mantel here. And she said, there he is.
When you walk through the cottage and observe the historic memorabilia, or when you climb to the top of the lighthouse, you get that feeling that certain spirits are still among us, greeting the visitors with a sudden creak, the flash of a light, or a moving object. But you'll have to go see it for yourself, and maybe bring a friend or two the next time you travel to the Old Presque Isle Lighthouse.